I will never ask someone to do something that I won't do myself. If you're in the trenches with your team, what's our issue? We've got a hiring project and we need 10 candidates by Friday. I am happy to serve as we don't have enough job orders, or we don't have enough client visits, or we're having trouble getting meetings. I made all these dials and here were my connects and this is what I did. I'm happy to do that too.
Jump back on the
getting in there and doing it, because then you sometimes realize too, like, wait, this is a little harder. I think open and honest communication
yeah.
and being available. So someone's having a hard time, like figuring out, well, what are the things that you can do to move some of the obstacles out of their way, or just listen and give feedback anywhere in the organization is, I think, really important.
Hello, this is Chris Mader, and today is the 5th edition of the MTA podcast, and I have a very special guest to bring to you today. Is a former colleague of mine when we formerly worked at what was once called Randstad Technologies and Randstad Engineering. But today my guest is Angie Keller, who is now the Managing Director of North America and Canada for U.S. major accounts at Randstad Digital. After all the transformation at Randstad, it's now Randstad Digital. Over more than a decade at Randstad, she went from running a single branch, when I remember you, in Houston, Texas, Angie, to now running more than 20 branches across multiple countries, helping clients navigate large-scale digital transformation. She's been also recognized on the SIA list of 40 under 40 for innovation and team leadership, and she is a visible champion for women in staffing, in engineering, and technology. It is an honor, my friend, Angie Keller. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting. I'm trying to think back when we first met at Randstad, because I was part of the Sapphire Randstad journey. We became Randstad in 2008, and you were in engineering. I was in technologies. When did you start in the what was then the Sapphire or engineering business, Randstad engineering business? When was that?
So I've been here for about 15 years, and it was right, VDR had acquired the engineering and group that I later joined, and then that was later acquired by Randstad. And so then I think we started working together maybe 3 years into my 15 years when we formed what was then called Randstad Technologies Group. And you were doing some really great things for Randstad Technologies, and I wanted to weasel my way into some of those great things and said, "Hey, can we bring engineering into this too?"
That's right.
And you graciously allowed that, so my teams benefited from some of the things that you were doing for the group as a whole.
Well, I do remember that conversation. It was easy to help you. I mean, you're just a very warm, engaging, hardworking leader, and you're very humble in the way you approached everything. Yeah, always very well respected by our side because we were, bringing things together back in the day. So talk to me now about the transformation, because, I had 20 years at Randstad. You're now approaching 20 years at Randstad. So we have two people on this call with 30 total years combined. I love the company. We were acquired, Sapphire Technologies acquired 2008 by Randstad, and we became Randstad Technologies and all these things. And I went from bleeding Sapphire Blue to bleeding Randstad Blue. And it's a company that just invests in their people. It has an amazing visionary strategy around the globe. You've now elevated from just a US role into a multinational role, including Canada, where you're sitting today in Toronto, Canada. Yeah. So talk to me about what has changed since 2016, since I left that great company.
Well, I think so much has changed, right? I think if you think about the world around us is always changing. Our customers are changing and evolving, and we continue to transform to meet the needs of our customers. So I think it's always like shaping our strategy. Like, how do we deliver, in my case, tech talent at speed and with scale globally? And how are we organized to enable ourselves to do that? What are the new or different types of ways that we can deliver talent to our customers? But one thing that hasn't changed, I would say, is talent being at the center of everything we do. And I think one thing that has remained constant from when you were at Randstad to today is the people that make all of that possible. So it's like while we evolve, like how we service our customers and how we are organized within specialties has changed, the great service and the people at the center and the talent at the center of everything we do has remained a constant thing.
That's awesome. I remember One of the four pillars, because I did have the opportunity to go to Randstad in Amsterdam, or Diemen, I should say, back in the day, best people. I
Mhm.
remember it was one of the four pillars of Randstad. Have those core values evolved or changed at all? I remember best people. It was excellent execution, strong concepts. I remember, which I still take in my business today. I mean, these are all things that apply to any successful business.
Best people has remained a pillar, and our core values have remained unchanged since the early days of
So great.
Randstad. And, and if you look at them, it's like they still apply, even though things evolve in the market, the core values have remained unchanged. And I don't personally see them changing. I think that they still hold true today.
I totally agree. Totally agree. I had the opportunity to meet Fritz Goldsmithing, who's the original founder of Randstad, the guy on a bicycle
Yeah.
65 years ago delivering resumes around Amsterdam. And you know what he said to me, Angie? I don't know if you and I ever talked about this, but I did talk to him about technology. I want to talk to you a little bit about AI in a minute, but I was talking about advances in technology. And Fritz said to me, he said in his Dutch accent, Chris, nothing will ever change the importance of the intuition of a good recruiter. And I'm like, this guy is one of the most wealthiest people in the world, one of the nicest guys I met. But just for a visionary that grew a company to over, I've lost how many billions of dollars in global revenue. To say that intuition still matters is so refreshing. It was refreshing to hear.
Yeah. And that is like, so the talent at the center of everything we do, I think remains unchanged. But, you mentioned AI, and how can we empower our people with AI? And for us, we acquired a talent platform called Torque. Gosh, it's going on, it's almost going to be 2 years. So let's call it a year and a half ago. We had Torque as our partner. And the need that we had at the time was our clients needed nearshore talent, and we had a partner with Torque to deliver us that talent. But then we got to know them, better and better, and we're like, well, how is it that this company, we tell them this is what we need, and they say, here you go with the talent almost immediately? So we took a look at what they were doing. We had a meeting with them, and we realized they have this beautiful platform that enables them to build talent communities. The platform is AI driven, and it's still all about the people. So how could we use what they have and make that our global tech talent platform? Use that community strategy of thinking of our customers are always going to need hyper relevant talent communities, but we need to make sure that they're available immediately so that when the customer says, hey, I need these people, we're ready to respond. And you can't do that as well if you're always just responding to an opportunity. Every single new opportunity you get, you're going out and searching for it. So it's like, how do we make that experience for our customers and our talent
Yeah,
much more seamless?
yeah,
And Torque really helps with that. And it's
yeah,
all AI powered. So then it's like, you you can never turn off the intuition of a recruiter. You're right about that, but how do we elevate their role? So all of these manual things that our teams need to do every single day, with a manual search, with, an upload of a resume, how do we automate that? So
yes,
now we're really elevating the role of a recruiter to more of an advisor
yep,
versus
awesome.
like every single portion of their job is very manually focused.
Of course, Randstad always innovating, and I do remember working there as one of the top three firms in the world. It was always the innovator and front runner. And it's
Yeah.
funny you say that, Angie. I'm glad you
And
said that because
we're the top one right now, just
top
so you know.
one, number
Yeah.
one. I love
Number
it. I
one.
think I think we were number one when I was there too. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
guys are holding that spot.
Yes.
That's so cool. So, but I want to go back to the AI piece because I was at the TechServe conference recently, and you were unable to be there this year. And we've gone to others like Staffing Industry Analysts and other great events like this. But the TechServe conference, it was all about AI. And anecdotally, I got to run a panel. And Casey Jaycock, shout out, thanks for getting me that panel opportunity. But about a third of the room is using AI in some form on the recruiting side, and only about 10% on the sales side. And so there's a lot of conversation. And by the way, I told all the staffing firms there, I'm like, look, the good news is nobody has really truly figured this out yet. So you're not that far behind. However, if you don't start to adopt this sooner rather than later, you'll be lapped in the next 2, 3, 4 years. Is that accurate?
I agree with that. And I sometimes wonder, when other firms say they're not really using it for sales, do they realize they are? Like, do your teams use Gemini or ChatGPT or anything to like
Right.
craft your pitch? Are you responding to proposals at all with getting some insights from like a Gemini? And then a lot of the sales tools out there have AI built in. So it's like, you're mapping out a customer and I need to find insights on that customer before I'm calling them. Usually
I know.
AI is helping, so it's like I think a lot of times people say, "Oh, we're not really doing it on the sales side." And maybe that's more like on the recruiting side, there could be some more agentic AI happening where an agent is doing a
Correct.
pre-screen before the recruiter sees it.
Correct.
We're not seeing like agents doing cold calls as much, but a lot of the
Yeah.
tools in sales
Yeah.
are embedded into, AI tools as well.
You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. It's a matter of systematizing it like anything. But it's funny because there was a lot of conversation too about AI about is it going to displace jobs? And the argument was it's going to displace a few jobs, it's going to add more jobs, but the net is going to improve productivity and tasks of the people doing the jobs was
Yes.
what was discussed. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And maybe
Uh,
the jobs change a little bit. And that's okay because just like, the world around us is changing. And I use I have been using the analogy that someone at Randstad said to me, so I can't take credit for this, but it really resonates. Think about our industry and relate it to banking. In both of our lives, we would have gone into our local branch and deposited a check, and nothing was digital. And, fast forward, I don't know the last time you walked into a branch or used the capsule and deposited the check. Everything's digital. So it's like there's just so much more of that happening in our industry. You and I have been doing this for a long time. I know I used to fax resumes and I'd have to cut off, the letterhead and make it look nice before I faxed it over. Thankfully, we're not doing that anymore. Everything's a lot more automated, but there's a long way to go in our
yeah.
industry.
I love your examples because as a leader, and I want to talk to you about how you lead change in your company because, like you said, the company's always evolving and growing and changing. But that's what I try to do in my practice as an executive coach, leadership coach, sales coach, is just articulate there's four types of people: innovators, early adopters, fence sitters, laggards. And there are positives and benefits to all of them, but at some point the laggards will get beat. So it's just a matter of when are you going to change? You're going to get on board now, a little later, or much later. It's just a matter of when and what your propensity for change is. But I want to talk to you about and ask you about your propensity to change and lead change. What are the keys for you? You go from running US markets into, say, now Canada, another country, new markets. What are some of the levers you pull your approach when it comes to leading any type of change in the organization?
I think that's a great question, and I think I'm smiling because we had a topic like this yesterday in one of our leadership meetings. It's like, how do you ensure that change isn't seen negative? And so it's like setting that mindset first, like, this is good, because you say change, and a lot of times people are like, oh gosh, what's
Yeah,
happening next?
yeah,
We just got used to this. So, like, really first changing the mindset of we should always be evolving. And that's not just in work. We should just always be evolving in
right,
everything we do.
right.
So it's like making it not as scary, talking about the benefits of the tweaks we're making to a process or any type of change, like what's the impact? Why are we doing the change? So I think over communication on the benefit. And then I'm in this program right now through Randstad, which has been great. So working with different leaders all over the world.
Yeah.
And one of the individuals in the course mentioned something about it, like your topic of the laggers, really.
Okay.
So what they said was, you go through all of these things in your business, and there's always people who are the ones that are the laggers, or they're just really not interested in it. Well, those are the people you need to listen to, and you
Mm,
need to understand why.
mm.
And sometimes you need to listen so hard that you might change your mind. And
Oh,
I love that because I'm
that's
like,
awesome.
usually I have this idea like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, and I'm just trying to charge through. but spending some time to listen and like figure out, okay, what's the issue? But then giving them the same advice, like listen so hard to this that you just might change your mind. And that I love. The other thing is like with some of the people who might be a late adopter or a
Yeah.
lagger,
Yeah.
the most exciting thing for me when we're going through any like a tool change even, okay, get the people who are the innovators, get the people who are excited about it, let them prove some success, and then watch the other people naturally kind of be like, okay, I wasn't going to change my process, but look at what's happening with
Right.
this person who's doing it, and that someone might have less results than me, but now they're starting to catch up. So I better jump on here too. So sharing the stories, over communicating, and really making it positive versus like having this change be something negative, which so many people just like naturally have. You say change and they're like, oh no, it's like
Right.
you gotta make it exciting and show the
Yeah.
benefit.
That's outstanding. That's great. If you're a leader, listen to the podcast today. Go back and re-listen to the last 4 minutes. We'll be highlighting that in some shorts this week. That's awesome. I also want to talk about, you referenced this a little bit casually. One of the things, the benefits of Randstad is they really invest in their employees. I mean, from talent acquisition right through new hire orientation, all the way through. I mean, there's programs literally for new hires, overachievers, new leader, emerging leader, mid leader, senior leader, CEO. And the programs are endless. The development is endless. And of course, Angie, I come and now I do training development for my clients. Help my clients, help the people listening to this podcast. I'll talk to a client and say, Chris, I just spent 35,000 on an executive search to get a VP of sales. I'm like, okay, do you want to spend 35,000 to train your entire sales team this year? Like, and just invest in them. And I get resistance from clients. Like, talk to me about development, why it's so important. Why was it important for you? And why is it important, for the employees at Randstad?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you something that I learned from you actually in this. So it's like if you look at stats, and this is probably true for organizations everywhere. So we invest so much. I think all sales organizations, if they think about training, they always invest at the beginning. And so it's like if you get people at the beginning and you train them and you keep them for a year, okay, that's a milestone and that's great. But then if you continue to invest in them, do you keep them for 3 more years? And if they're already at 3 more years and you give them something else, now are they here for 10 plus years? And if they're there for 10 plus years, that's really hard to leave. So
Correct.
it's like training can never be an event. And I agree with you. So it's like if you're going to spend that amount of money on one person, and then that person leaves, yikes, that really hurts. But it's like if you're always giving back to your people and they're applying it to their business and they're getting more and more productive, you're not giving them any reason to leave.
Right.
Why would they want
Correct.
to leave? So it's like
Correct.
using it as a way to, like, of course, new hire training and getting people off to a great start is so essential, but keeping them and improving them is
Yeah.
equally essential.
Yeah. It's training and development.
Yes.
the
Yes.
and yeah,
That's exactly
the end
it.
development is very important. No, I'm really glad you framed it that way. And again, I mean, I love recruiting companies. Ron says recruiting firm, and among other things. I am all for using recruiting firms for permanent placement fees. The funny thing is, that's just well known around the world. 100% of people know that recruiting firms exist. You'll pay a fee. It's part of doing business. No big deal. But then when I go pitch clients around, hey, let's go spend 20, 30, 40 grand on training or development and coaching, you get this look of like
Oh my gosh.
resistance. Yeah, it's wild. But again, maybe it's partly part of the change curve. They're laggards, they're late
Yeah,
adopters. I don't know. They'll figure it out. But I'm trying to make the training, quote unquote, and development piece as well accepted as recruiting,
definitely.
as getting in an Uber, as it's just part of doing business. You develop your employees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
So
like the of course, we always want to be helping people find great talent and we want to charge a fee to do that. But then you have the time until they're productive. So it's like, so if you can develop existing team members and continue to enhance their skills, and we put out tons of reports all of the time on how important to employees globally upskilling is. So it's like Yeah.
And you remember from our time together, because we were measuring at the time, we started, one of it was a new hire training program, and we were elevating, I think it was called EAC, Expert Achiever
Yes.
Circle. And the program was targeting that 9 to 12 month tenure because we believed we would get them further.
Yes.
And for all the staffing leaders out there, little trivia question, Angie's going to know the answer. Are people more productive between months 0 to 12 or 12 to 36? Angie?
12 to 36.
12 to 36. But what do? We invest in the new. And then, and that, like I said, you still have to invest in new. But really, the time is, like you just articulated, really invest in that mid tenure, because then once you keep them, they're there forever. And once they're forever, it's
Yes.
good result, and you end up running multiple countries for a great company
Yeah.
like Randstad. So really cool. So listen, I have to tell you something. I was asking you before a little pre-interview, and we were joking about our fitness journeys. I want to hear about your current. So I'm addicted to kettlebell training right now. I have a bad back and everything, and CrossFit doesn't work. And so I found this kettlebell program that works really well for me. Tell the audience what you found and the current streak that you are on and your current fitness journey.
So it's so fun. My husband owns a CrossFit gym. So it's like
Yeah.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, he had to kick me out of class because they had to spend, they had to spread out, and he didn't
Social
want to,
distance. Yeah.
yeah, social distance, and he didn't want the free member to take up a spot for his existing members.
That's
So
great.
I started off with just getting one Peloton, and then there's a bunch of people, and I had the bike originally, and I liked it, so I added the tread, and now I've got the rower too. And we're a competitive bunch within Randstad, and so two of my coworkers, um, they were always on the Peloton. So I started off like, okay, all about habit tracking, like I just need a 30-day streak where I don't miss a day on Peloton. And so I did that, and then I kept it up, and then it was 90 days. And my colleague Martin was like, I mean, you got to go for a year now. So I did that. I made a year, and now I think I'm at like 410 days and counting. I got it done this morning. So another
Amazing.
day checked off. So yeah,
And it's hard to do when you're traveling, balancing the workload that you have and your family and travel. It's hard to keep the consecutive streak going. That's impressive. The discipline.
yeah.
That's really impressive.
Sometimes you got to get up just a little bit earlier, and even if it's a 30-minute workout, you got it done, and then the rest of your day feels much better.
It is great advice, because even when you're tired, you're jet lagged, you get in late, you want to sleep in, you are better off with a little, maybe an hour less sleep and getting that 30-minute workout in, because
I
you will
agree.
feel better. Yeah, I totally
Yes.
agree.
Yes.
That's awesome. So we, together, when we worked together 10, 15 years ago, we worked a lot on employee development, training, leadership training development. But another thing I wanted to talk about is EOS. So in my practice, I do executive coaching, leadership training, sales training, but I'm an EOS implementer. And you and I have worked with other colleagues, whether it's at Randstad, left Randstad, that work with the EOS. Talk to me about your experiences with the entrepreneurial operating system framework and why it could be good for a business or for a leader.
So this is something I could talk about for hours. So I will
Okay,
say I
awesome.
am like an EOS nerd.
Awesome.
Um, Before I joined Randstad, I worked for a small company, and we got really lucky because the owner of my company met Gino Wickman, and
The guy who wrote Traction, he wrote Traction.
Gino wrote Traction.
Yeah.
And I was living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the time. Gino's based out of Michigan, and the owner of my company said, I really like this concept and I want to implement EOS. He owned a lot of businesses at all of my businesses, but I'm only going to do that if you're our EOS implementer. So not only did we get to have Gino as the EOS implementer, we used him for like 3 or 4 years. So he
Wow.
actually has an ebook called Decide that he wrote after Traction, and we are the company that he references when he says he was on a flight back
No
after a
kidding.
session.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
But then it came, this was small business. The guy who owned the company was very entrepreneurial, and he'd been opening up new businesses. At the same time, the market was just really down. And so he talked to Gino as like this partner, and he said, we've been using you for a few years, and this is an investment we make every year. Like almost like, can you give me a break on some of the fees or something? And Gino, as a partner, said, I'm going to do you something better. I'm going to train Angie to do this for you. And you don't need me anymore. I'm always here. Once a client, always a client. I'm always here, but I think you all are ready. And
Wow.
maybe Gino was like, okay, I got to move on from this
Yeah,
company
moving on.
and talk to you
Yeah.
other time or something.
Yeah.
So then I had the benefit of Gino saying, here's how you run everything. Here's how you do the kickoffs. And I always had this mindset of, okay, this is really good for, kind of like that smaller mid-sized business. But every single group I have run at Randstad,
Mhm.
I've used that for my group.
Right.
I mean, it's like all of the basics are there. But what I highly recommend is companies use an implementer to do it. Because so we did this when I was leading engineering. We hired an EOS implementer and it just
Yeah.
excelled things because you've got now this neutral party in the room. And at the time, one of my very favorite people in Randstad Engineering, she's in Randstad Engineering still, or she just took on an elevated role. Her and I, she was my SVP of sales, and I was the president at the time. We would battle. And that was the best part of these meetings is like we had totally different opinions. I will say many times she was right, but you needed someone like there to help move things forward, to kind of
Absolutely.
bring the discussion back, to
Yeah.
set that structure, that framework of like, okay, what is your 3-year picture? What are you going to do for your 1-year plan to make sure you're meeting your 3-year picture? What's the accountability on your quarterly rocks? And like question you and saying like, is that really the most important thing? Like from an outside
Yep.
perspective, you guys have been discussing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's where you want to focus in Q1? And all of us to say, well, they're right. And they weren't in the day to day of our business, but it's so obvious sometimes to
Right.
someone from the outside. But just like that accountability of like,
Yeah.
we're going to check this again. Okay, did we get it right? Where do we need to tweak? But you're just moving things along. So it's like that
Yeah.
model, whether you're a small company, a mid-sized company, or a large company, you're running, a part of an organization within a large
Yeah.
company, the system works.
It
And
does.
so I highly recommend. So everybody listening, if you haven't thought about using Chris as your EOS implementer,
Yeah.
it's game changing.
No, I appreciate it. It's a great commercial for EOS and for me, and I appreciate that. And I tell my clients, I say, pick me, don't pick me. You're crazy
Just
not
do
to
it.
consider this model. Exactly. Yeah.
And if you're doing it for the first time, because another thing that I've seen, and I did this myself. So even having, the benefit of Gino training me on here's how you do it and this is how you do it yourself. That was after we had had an EOS implementer. So then I tried to do it by myself within Randstad Engineering. And it was like, well, wait, we're still just getting to, well, I decide, or like it's going to be my call. And even with an implementer, some of that can be true, but it brings a different perspective and it keeps you honest on using the system, whether there's like different EOS tools that you feel like, well, we don't really need to do that, or we shouldn't use that. Then you go through it and you're like, oh, that was really okay. Yeah, the system works. We should have
Yeah.
just followed the system. So having
Yeah.
someone outside do it, at least for a while, I think is essential.
Well, it's funny you say that because I have 9 engagements now. 2 of them were companies that had the framework, like you said, without an implementer.
Hmm.
And they brought me in, and I did a second session for a client just this past Monday. And as I left the call, I find the quote from my client. They said, Chris already 10x'd the productivity of these meetings in
Definitely.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And for then a leader to not have to like
Deal
worry
with it.
about doing
Worry
that
about it.
himself. And oh my gosh, it's all just set. It's just,
And
yeah.
Angie, is in your role, you want to sit in a meeting and be strategic and think, not have to worry about running the meeting or
Yes.
organizing the meeting or the
Keeping
agenda
us
for
on
the meeting.
track, all of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I do like the tangent button because I use success.co and also Bloom, and I have 90 as well. But there's the tangent button. That's like my
Yep.
favorite button to hit. If somebody's going off track, I just hit the tangent button. Be like, we're not doing this right now. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
so
And you
fun.
don't do that if it like no one's hitting the tangent button as comfortably on
Correct.
me if I'm running the process
That's
and I'm
right.
a leader. So
That's
it's
right.
like the extra help there is essential.
Fully agree. One or two final questions, and I'll let you fly. I want to talk about just your leadership principles. So, because I got to work with you, I not only worked with you as a peer and a colleague, I witnessed the development of your teams, and will say that you had tremendous psychological safety with your team. They were very hardworking, results oriented, just really strong team orientation, communicated well. There was just kindness. When I interacted with your team, what are your principles? Like go back to the, everything you've learned over the past X number of years in your life and leadership. What are the core principles that you live by that you make sure your team understands are important that creates that type of an environment?
I think one thing that has, I would say, served me well, but can also be a development opportunity for me is I will never ask someone to do something that I won't do myself. So sometimes I'll get feedback like you jump in too much and like do some of the work when let someone else do it. So it's equally a development opportunity, but I firmly believe like if you're in the trenches with your team and it's like, okay, what's our issue? We need to we've got a hiring project and we need 10 candidates by Friday. I am happy to serve as a recruiter. We don't have enough job orders or we don't have enough client visits or we're having trouble getting meetings. I saw your a story from you that you're like, I made all these dials and here were my connects and this is what I did.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that too.
Jump back on the desk. Yeah.
Getting in there and doing it, because then you sometimes realize too, like, wait, this is a little harder.
Yeah. Or you see the tools they have or don't have.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. So I think open and honest communication and being available. So like someone's having a hard time like figuring out, well, what are the things that you can do to move some of the obstacles out of their way, or just listen and give feedback anywhere in the organization is, I think, really important. And I've told people like I don't always have the answers, but the benefit of working for a company like Randstad is I might know someone who does have the answers or know someone
Absolutely.
who will know someone who knows the
Absolutely.
answers. So it's like connecting the dots and really being available for teams, I think, is important.
Yeah, that's great. And again, I remember best concepts. That's one of the core values. To your point, I remember making calls within Randstad. If we didn't have it in the U.S., we go to Canada. They didn't have to go to Australia, go to Europe. It was
Yeah.
somebody
It's like
somewhere had an answer.
someone here has this answer.
Exactly. That's so cool. I want to go back. I didn't ask you this yet. We talk about make the adjustment as a tagline. You had the benefit, I believe is a huge benefit back in your career many years ago. You ran a recruiting desk and a sales desk. You ran recruiting teams and sales teams. Adjustments. If you, this is a two-part question going in each direction. If you're a recruiter, what can recruiters do better to be more effective working with their salesperson if it's a split desk model? And conversely, what do salespeople do or don't do they should be doing to help their recruiters do their jobs more effectively? I want to ask you because you have a very unique perspective.
I think it's communication and like mutual agreement. So like if you're a recruiter and you're not having success, asking feedback to the account managers, asking them, "Hey, I really want to join in on your sales call, so I understand the challenges your customers are facing and how can I uniquely position the opportunity to candidates?" Same thing on the sales side, like I'm not getting support or I like they don't seem to want to work with me. It's like, well, why is that? What are you doing? Like
Right.
how do you make this an exciting opportunity for them and communicating? And then I think always like just mutually agreeing. So it's like, okay, the minute an opportunity comes in, regardless of what type of opportunity, we've got joint accountability in making sure we are placing great people with great clients. So who's handling what? So you're telling me, okay, I have this opportunity for you and you're the salesperson, I'm the recruiter, I should be telling you, I'm getting you candidates today. And if I don't, I'm telling you why I'm having challenges in getting the candidates. And maybe you can remove some of those obstacles by talking to your client and letting them know. And then, it's like we're both going to help prep the candidate for success on the interview. We're both checking in, so it's like this two-way thing. Like we're always talking to each other. We're partners in this. And so I think that's the same on both sides.
That's great. That's great because I know that there have been times in staffing firms out there where sales is valued, quote unquote, more than recruiting. Some firms actually it's recruiting more than sales. And to your point, I've always coached and espoused it takes two people to make a deal. It takes a recruiter and the salesperson. So they're equally as important. It's 50-50 all the way. And yeah, I like what you say. I mean, your answer is perfect. I just always say put yourself in the other person's seat.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a salesperson, you were the recruiter in this example, I'd be like, Angie, help me understand what do you need? Like, what do you need from me? What don't you have on the rack? What's missing, what can make it better, asking for feedback, but putting myself in your seat, like, hey, you're going to be calling these candidates. Like, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
That's
Or
the
the
way we should be
opposite,
viewing.
like of, because sometimes it'll be like, especially with people who are a little newer, it's like, I don't know a ton about this company yet. I'm still learning and I don't have access to the hiring manager, but I got this opportunity. I think then it's like being really honest and not overselling what it is, like saying like, Chris, do me a solid.
Yeah.
I'm trying to break
Right.
into this company. I can't promise you I'm going to get feedback if you send me, three great candidates, but I can promise you I'm going to be following up on them. And we might learn more about the opportunity if you help me. And then it's not like, sometimes I think um, in sales, we're really excited about everything. So like really like editing, like this is the most important thing. Or on the recruiter side saying, this candidate was a little hesitant, but here are the reasons why I think they're a really good fit. Can you be sure to share that with your client? In the meantime, I'm going to be looking for someone who's 100% match and super excited,
Yeah.
but like just
Yeah.
being really honest about the situation, I
I love
think.
it. No, and you keep talking about two-way communication, all the collaboration. I love it. It's awesome. All right, I've taken so much of your time. This is awesome. So much gold in here. Last two questions. Where can people find you if they want to find you? Because if guys, she's hiring, you want to work and trust me, work for that company, work for Angie. So I want to know where people can find you. Is there anything else that I missed? Anything else that you wanted to talk about today we didn't talk about that you wish we got to?
Okay, so I'll tackle the easy one where they can find me on LinkedIn, Angie Keller. My email is angie.keller@randstaddigital.com. And then I think you didn't miss it, but I have to give you a compliment
Okay,
on some of
please.
the things that have just stayed with me
Wow.
from the time together. So
Okay. I
I
can't wait.
remember,
I can't wait to hear this. This is gonna be
yeah,
fun.
I
Yeah.
remember going to a session that you put on for like you said, that the people who were over a year but less
Oh,
than 3 years.
expert achiever circle,
Yeah,
EAC.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
you always put those programs on, and this is what I weaseled my way into. And I think the promise I made was I'll go to every session and be one of your speakers as long as my teams can be a part of this.
That's right.
And the advice you would say is like really changing the mindset from I have to do something to I get to do something. And like even today, this morning, I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to go and do this, and then I'm gonna have to rush and do my flight. And it's like, what a privilege it is to get to be busy with my teams and my clients and like have to jam it all in and like really changing that mindset to something, as a privilege versus I have to and I get to is something that's really stayed with me. So I
That's
wanted to
cool.
make sure I told you that.
Thank you.
You're
Well, you know
welcome.
what, Angie, honestly, I love hearing that. That's a great story and I appreciate it. As a coach, as a trainer, as a leader, and it happens for you too, you develop your staff, you give them advice. I always say it's like giving out lollipops every day. You just don't know which lollipops they're going to like or not like. You don't know which ones are going to stick. It's cool to hear the ones that do stick because I'll make
Yeah.
sure I keep reinforcing that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
great
a good
story.
one.
That's awesome. Angie, thank you for being here. So again, Angie Keller, guys, Randstad Digital. Her insights are amazing. Lots of gold nuggets. I'm going to be cutting these up and getting them up on social as soon as I can. But I always like to close with this, guys. I wrote the book, Make the Adjustment. And if something in your life is not going the way you want, the bad news is the person in the mirror is the problem, but the good news is that same person is the solution. And it's up to you to make the adjustment. Angie, you've made so many adjustments to grow your career. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. It's great to see you. It's been way too long. I can't wait to see you on the trail at a conference sometime soon, but congratulations on all your very well-deserved success.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
This is awesome. Thanks, Angie. Angie Keller, everybody. Thank you.